We've talked about the accessories, the ammunition, a little bit of history, a little bit about the cartridge, but let's move on to the rifle design itself. The bare bones basic Mosin Nagant rifle is typically going to have what is called a round receiver, and as you can see, this is round. I'm going to take some close-up shots, but you have a hex receiver and a round receiver. Round receivers are typically wartime manufacture, and they're a little bit more hastily made. There's nothing wrong with a round receiver, but the hex receivers are generally regarded as having higher quality of manufacture, higher quality in terms of attention to detail and precision. Here we have a Russian M38 rifle. This is same as an M44, but without a bayonet. In fact, this even has the M44 stock that's inletted for the bayonet. Round receiver, straight bolt. In my opinion, the Mosin Nagant suffers a little bit in the bolt design in that, in my opinion, it's just a little short. You don't get quite as much leverage. So weaker framed people or women or whoever, just people that aren't quite as strong, might have just a little bit of difficulty opening the bolt sometimes, just because you do lose a little bit of leverage. Now, earlier versions of the Mosin Nagant, early prototype versions, had a longer bolt handle, had I got tongue-tied here, had a exposed fluted barrel, and reports on that particular rifle were that the accuracy was outstanding. However, the Russians didn't go for it because, of course, the cost to manufacture and the time to manufacture each unit was just a little bit too lengthy. So anyway, you have your straight bolt. Now, I'll show you something real quick here. To decock one of these rifles, even with one in the chamber, of course make sure it's pointed in a safe direction. But to decock this rifle, just click it over to the right just a little bit, squeeze the trigger, and the action will decock. This rifle has a very, very strange and awkward safety. You have to pull this back and cock it either to the left or right. I usually do it to the left. The safety on this thing is adequate, but I wouldn't trust it. The bolt will not open, the weapon will not fire. To fire the rifle, simply pull back and disengage the safety. As you can see, it's a major pain in the butt. A soldier with gloves on and in a hurry, I definitely would not be worrying about trying to mess with the safety. Probably the most crucial safety of the weapon is pretty much the length of pull and the weight of the trigger. I'll tell you what, I don't know if any of you guys have ever understood this concept, but with military weapons are typically designed with a trigger weight that is equal to the weight of the weapon. In this case, the trigger is significantly lighter than the weight of the weapon. But like if you take a military grade M16 and charge it or whatever, you should be able to hold the weapon with your finger on the trigger, safety off, and without any more force other than the weight of the weapon. You should be able to hold the weight of the weapon without the trigger going off. Just a little bit of quick info. Let's talk a little bit about some of the markings you may see on these rifles. I mean, listen, there's books written on this crap, so I'm not going to get too much into detail. I have a very hastily and horribly made drawing here of some of the different arsenal markings you can expect to see. This poorly drawn star that you see here is an example of the Tula arsenal marking. Weapons produced in the Tula factory are generally considered to be very high quality. This triangle with the arrow in it is the, I know I'm not going to say this right, but the Izhnik or Eshenik arsenal. A lot of military collectors consider this to be a Izzy. So if you say, if one of your buddies says, yeah, I bought an Izzy, 9130, then you know exactly what it is. This mark right here is typically on the stock, and that is a Russian arsenal refurbishing mark. If your rifle has that mark, then it means it was refurbished in the arsenal. This SA, that's the Finnish Army Arsenal Acceptance Stamp. This M39 in front of me here has that mark on it. This is a poorly drawn hammer, but this is the more rudimentary marking. I think it's for the Izzy, or it could be Tula. I think it's Tula, I'm sorry. But this is an early Tula mark. It'll have a hammer. So if you get a Mosin Nagant and you see a hammer marking, that's what that is. A circle with a C in it, that's the Chatralet, or Chatralet, I don't know how to say that damn word. If you have a Mosin Nagant with one of these C's in, like this, it's a very, very old one of the first runs of the first initial French contract Mosin Nagants. So I'm going to move on to talk about the stocks a little bit. Okay, YouTube, I'm going mobile here. You're going to have to excuse the poor camera work. I want to talk a little bit about a few of the features I missed. I didn't mention the magazine. The magazine is a single stack, five round capacity, fed from a stripper clip, as you can see, and there is a stripper clip notch in the top of the receiver. And in a minute I'm going to show you how to load a stripper clip. I wanted to mention that, and I also want to mention the sights. The sights are a simple tangent sight. In this case, this one's adjustable to a very optimistic 1,000 meters. I don't think you could hit anything with this at 1,000 meters, but you never know. The front sight post is just a pole with a protected globe over the top, and you can see there's a hole on the top of the globe to adjust the front sight post. It's not adjustable for windage, but is adjustable for elevation. Okay, and that's pretty much it. You have a one-piece stock. Typically, a lot of them have splice stocks. In fact, right here on this M39, you're probably not going to be able to tell all that great, but it does have a repair splice right down here. See where they built the stock, two-piece stock. So you know you're going to see things like that, a splice. There's tons of markings on these stocks. I'm not going to get into them. You do have a separate piece for the upper handguard. Now I want you to look at these bands. Okay. Notice the bands on the Russian firearms. Now let's look at the bands on the Finnish firearm, shall we? Much higher quality. You see you have this similar types of retaining devices for them. A little bit higher quality overall. The Finnish used the Finns actually contracted various barrel makers to make replacement barrels for captured Mosin Nagants they got in various conflicts. I'm not going to go into that because that's actually a whole nother subject about the Finns. But as you can see, there's differences in the Finn and Russian, sighting systems and everything. I'm not going to get into all that. But I will mention that you can generally tell a Finnish Mosin Nagant by the two-piece stock.